VP of Community. We've got a special edition of today's Trader Roundtable. We've got some of the familiar faces from our shows, all in New York for the Cash Tag Awards. So we thought we'd get together, chop it up, see what the market's doing, and kind of just see what everyone thinks. So we've got Larry Thompson, aka Hostile Charts. We've got the Warlock, Kenny Glick, Hit the Bid Radio. We got Michael Nauss here from Canada. Thank you for coming down. And Stats Edge Trading. And then we've got Leah, Leah the trader from Trading Mindset and Data. TMAD. So I think it's super critical before we get into kind of the markets. It's important to know what people's time frames are, how they approach markets, how they got into it. So I'm going to kick it off, give everyone about a minute or two to talk about their background and how they approach the markets. That way, as we get into the discussion, you can see there's going to be a lot of different perspectives here. So Larry, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah. So Larry at Hostile Charts, as he mentioned. So background a little bit, started as a fundamental guy, CPA by trade, and then kind of got wrapped into the CMT world. And so now I'm more of a technical trader. And my time frame more positional. So I trade a lot of position trades. So a little bit longer time frame. I'm looking weeks to months when I place trades. A lot of my stuff comes from top-down analysis. So I use a lot of breath work and market from the top to kind of see what's taking place underneath the surface. And that kind of dictates how much I'm trading. I'm not addicted to the screens or addicted to trading, so I'm not trading all the time. It's really just depends on the regime the market's in, whether or not I'm taking a lot of trades.
Sure, you're not addicted.
Plus, we got two CPAs on this side of the table, so if you need your taxes done or need an extension, hit us up. We'll be happy to help you out. Anyway, Kenny, how about yourself?
All right, how are you, everybody? Kenny Glick at Hit the Bid Radio. They call me the Warlock. I got a lot of nicknames, but we don't have much time. But website's called hitthebid.com. Listen, I've been loving the market since birth, pretty much. My dad got me involved, put my bar mitzvah money right into the market. Back when his father got him into the market, they came door to door, knocking on the door, pitching Hartford Financial mutual funds. So, I think my dad was actually the first person to say, buy the dip. So, but now I've gone from a long-term investor to really minute to minute. I started day trading before the phrase was even coined. So back in 1997, a SOJ trader, if you guys remember SelectNet back in the day, Incubators, CMGI, when the internet was booming, it was really exciting. DoubleClick, NetSkip, iOmega, that kind of stuff. So, fast forward to what I'm doing now, still living minute to minute, love day trading, and I love having no positions at all, have no portfolio in cash every night, your classic day trader. I'm all about VWAP, and we're just, shout out to the VWAPians, my man. We're out there.
If you see Kenny looking down, he's just he's trading on his phone,
Yeah.
So
He's got some scalps.
all right, Michael, what do we got?
Yeah, so probably in between the two of them, from not so long term and some day trading as well. I'm a quant, right? So a lot of what I do as a CMT is what a lot of CMTs do, with just charts and technicals and all of that. But I'm a never-ending skeptic, so I'm like, prove it, right? If someone's telling me to buy a 200-day moving average, like, okay, well, I can go back and test that. So a lot of what I do, that's why the name of the website Stats Edge Trading, because I want to start with some statistical base and then apply technical analysis on top of that. So time frame for me, again, it doesn't really matter. If I can find a system to day trade, I use that. If I find a system to hold for 6 years, I'll do that as well. But most of the time in that kind of 1 to 2 week time frame.
Awesome. And Leah from Trading Mindset and Data.
Wow, yes. So I'm Leah Holmgren from Trading Mindset and Data, and I've been trading for 5.5 years now, and I was investing before for almost 20 years. And what I do now, also, I use a lot of quant trading. So first what I do, I check SPX levels for the day, and I see gamma levels. I see where we probably will get on the day, because I like to look at the chart as my first source. And then I do mostly swing trading or day trading. Swing trading is my preference, but of course you have to adjust to the market, which this year we have more day trading as swing trading. Swing trading has been a little bit challenging because you never know what happens. And we have a lot of chops. So I like to look at daily chart and then get my way down to smaller time frames. I like high beta stocks. I love the leveraged ETFs. They're fun to trade, high flyers. And I also sell a lot of options. So this year, again, is a great year for us to sell options because of the implied volatility and increased volatility in the markets. So yeah, this is pretty much what I do. And I'm a former psychologist, and I worked as a marriage counselor for almost 10 years before I became a trader. So I really love all the knowledge that I learned through marriage counseling in the markets. And it's fascinating how many things are very similar in human psychology. So yeah, I like to discipline traders and help them come up with a system that works and make sure that they follow it.
Well, very cool. If we get into some arguments over some charts, you can be the mediator.
Well, I was going to
That'd be
say, can you
right.
call my wife, tell her that I'm always right?
great. Yeah, we'll take care of that after the show. But all right, so now that we've introed everyone, we want to get into the markets. That's what we're all here for. So I think a good place to start, obviously 2025 has been a much different environment than 23 and 24. So want to go around, just kind of get your perspectives on how you're changing your approach. You know, what are you doing the same? What are you doing differently? You know, how difficult is it to make money in this environment? Would love to kind of hear where you guys are all at. Larry, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So as I kind of mentioned, more positional trading, right, and using the top-down analysis. So big difference this year than last year's. A lot more new lows than new highs, right? Not a lot of new highs when it comes to 52-week, 3-month, 1 month. We haven't seen a sustained. We've seen a bounce here, but we haven't seen a sustained position in the market that's bullish. I think you look at stocks that are above their 200-day, 50-day, still the minority, right? It's around 30, 50%, right, that are above their 50 and 200. So that time frame to me is important for how I kind of position, right? Like right now, I'll take some short-term trades, right, trying to play some of these bounces that can be big moves. But overall, honestly, I've been sitting a lot, right? I've been sitting a lot since February. I kind of got out of the market, and that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been waiting for. I've seen some breadth thrusts kind of occur. We've seen some capitulation evidence and sentiment, and also in kind of, classic oversold RSI readings and things like that. And so it's been a lot of sitting and then some day trades, right? It's been a day trader's market with volatility increased, a lot of movement, not a lot of progress. So for me, honestly, I'm just doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of research, doing a lot of analysis that is going to help me for when that next up leg comes from that bigger time frame perspective.
Yeah, totally. I think that's super important. As a trader, you have to recognize when it's not suitable for your strategy and take a step back. Mm-hmm. Before we get into the rest of the folks here, I think Keith, if you could pull up Larry's chart, I think it provides a good perspective on kind of where the market is right now. So I think the S&P 500, obviously, we've had this pretty big bounce from the lows. I think we're up 15-ish%, obviously down today. That 550 level on the S&P is kind of a level that everyone is watching. So as we go around, would love to get your guys' perspective on just how you're viewing this particular level in the market and adjusting your approach. But Larry, why don't you walk through this chart and show us what you're seeing?
Yeah, talk about being a positional trader, and then I got a 65-minute candle chart. So, right, the market's fractal, so you're able to zoom in and look at these shorter time frames. So this is what you have to do right now because the picture on the larger time frame is a little bit messy. So this is just using a boxing analogy. We kind of got below that 5-day EMA using the 30 period, right? So a 65-minute chart, right? You get the math. And so what was happening is every time the bulls got punched, right? They didn't have their hands up, just kept getting hit. And that 550 level to me was like, okay, they kept falling to the canvas and getting back up. And then when the Trump announcement came, I called it the tariff TKO. We kind of got knocked out of that range, right? And all we've done right now is we've regained that level, that 550 level. And so that's why I think it's significant to the market, because that is that pre-tariff tantrum, whatever you want to call it. And I think all of the stuff that's taken place below that surface is movement. It's not progress. And so now if we can get above this 550, take that punch today, right? Maybe just pull back to this 5-day EMA or see a little bit chop sideways and continue upward. I think that's when we'll actually have progress. For right now, it's just movement, which is great for day trading, but not great for, necessarily long-term allocations.
Yeah, so we've got some improvement off the lows, but still plenty of work to do. Kenny, 65-minute candles. That's like a century in your world. Right?
I was going to say, I've actually never heard of 65-minute candles.
He was actually falling asleep while he was watching that.
Yeah, shout out Brian Shannon, multiple time frame analysis. This is kind of, using some the 65-day gives you 6 a day instead of giving you that half.
Interesting.
So Kenny, what are you seeing on your time frame, and what kind of candles are you using? Are you using tick charts or
I'm using 1 minute, 5 minute. Yeah, you know, I live for the day. You know, again, I was lucky enough to be in cash throughout this whole, you know, rollover. So, you know, I was able to short it and stay, you know, the day trader that I am. And this is the environment I would love to live in for forever. You know, these especially since COVID. I mean, COVID woke up day traders. I mean, the industry was kind of like falling apart a little bit, and the volume of day traders was kind of dwindling, and then suddenly we were all trapped in our homes, and bang, we're back. And I've never been this excited to be a day trader. I wake up every morning like really, really excited, like it's 1999 all over again for me. And I never thought I was going to live those days. But as far as the market's concerned, you know, I'm more of a QQQ trader. I never really trade the SPY.
Yeah.
I don't trade ES. But as far as I'm concerned, I look at the sentiment of what's going on right now as a bear who's been, you know, wrecked, being complacent bear, you know, thinking, again, we're always thinking the market's going to go lower, there's going to be another shoe to drop, another leg down, and that never happens, you know, usually, and I'm also, you know, as a bear, I'm thinking the worst is over, and it's I don't even want to say that, you know, as the bearish community, like, no, it's going to get a lot worse. But a lot of times when you have that capitulation, you saw it there, and then that commentary becomes of, you know, oh, it's going to get worse, and it generally never does. And I watch the VIX products, and the VIX products are telling us the worst might be over. I'm not, you know, again, you never know what's going to happen next week, and another tweet or you know, another catastrophe. But there's been so much thrown at the market, and I think that move that we had after the tariff tantrum was already going to happen, and I just think it got it out of the way quicker, and I'm just loving the action. I really am.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, are you trading pre-market, aftermarket too, or just regular trading hours? How are you kind of?
Oh, lately it's been basically 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's nonstop. But normally, you know, during earnings season, you have the earnings reports that come out the night before. You have the earnings reports that come out in the morning. That's where our focus is. But lately, you know, right before earnings got started a couple of weeks ago, it's all about the QQQ and these zero-date options. So now, for the first time in history, instead of having to lay out, you know, again, just roughly, you know, 1,000 shares of the Qs, you're talking about a $500,000 trade. Now you're able to do it for a couple of thousand. And those moves, when you're seeing 12-point moves on a daily basis, 15-point ranges, and that Trump candle, I think it was a 38-point move on the Qs. I mean, and you know, you were getting into this earlier. For us, it's the same day every day. You know, the numbers got bigger, but the risks aren't really that much different because it's still the same trade for us. We're looking for that same setup. And again, we're always selling into moves and covering on the way down. So those larger moves, you know, the internet likes to say, yeah, we bought the low and sold the high, because the internet never lies. They're always buying the lows and selling the highs. But we're making great money in the middle. The meat in the middle, there's so much now. And even on a day like today, when I saw the market getting hammered, my immediate thought, okay, let's buy this dip. And, you know, when you're trading VWAP, there's always a VWAP break. There's always those chart patterns that continuously show up, and that's it. Chart pattern recognition meets VWAP. And for me, now suddenly, you know, 12, 13 years have gone by, VWAP is the way, you know, and day trading is where I'm going to remain.
Awesome. Yeah, day traders paradise, apparently.
Yeah, for sure.
Michael, let's take a step back with you. You're kind of in the middle of these two, position trader, day trader. What are the stats telling you now? How are you adjusting your process?
Well, one of the big things that I do is, as we know, there's no system that works all the time, right? So my whole thing is trying to incorporate multiple systems, and I can test those. So I can see what happened in my systems in the .com bubble, 2008, 2020, all of the crashes we had, and it just turns out, and I don't think this will surprise anyone, in markets like this, it's mean reversion, right? You want to be buying dips and selling rips. You want to be in and out of positions much shorter. So basically, during that tariff tantrum, all of my trend following systems, just like Larry did, just went right to cash and just said, let's just sit out. And now, essentially, it's a lot of bidding below the market and hoping that you get some sort of crazy sell-off into it, and then you're flipping them back out the next day. Because it's just not the environment now where you want to find a story stock that's like breaking new highs and then buy it there. Because as soon as you do that, that's pretty much the end in this market. And to be honest, I'm kind of with Kenny. I think the lows are in. I also probably think the highs are in for like the next couple of years. So I think this kind of high volatility chop is probably what we're in for a long time. So what I'm doing a lot of is just trying to build more mean reversion systems, trying to build more day trading systems, short-term systems, because one thing that wasn't on that chart is with the anchored VWAP from all-time high. We keep hitting our head against it and falling back under it. So as long as we're at and around that price, there's going to be a lot of quant systems that fill around those VWAPs. It's why I'm with Kenny that VWAP works so well, is because you got a lot of hedge fund managers and institutions watching. So until we can get good separation one way or the other from that all-time high VWAP, I'm just going to be purely in mean reversion mode. And I don't like it. It's not nearly as fun as buying something and having it, you're following the trend, ripping all the time. You don't have to do anything other than trail your stop up, and so it's more work, it's more headache. But again, when the VIX is as high it is, the market is crazy, you buy dips, sell rips.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because especially as technicians and traders, you hear follow the trend, follow the trend.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot about what happens when there is no trend.
Yeah.
What do you do then? So Leah, I think you have a mix of kind of all these different approaches and time frames. So why don't you walk us through kind of how you're approaching this market environment and maybe provide a different perspective than we've gotten so far.
Well, 2023 and 24 was very easy to trade for people like Michael and I, for example, because you bought anything you bought would go up.
Yeah.
Literally.
You had suddenly all these specialists that were like Stanley Druckenmiller, and everyone was a specialist and everyone made money, which they for sure now lost all their money. In January this year, I posted a very important thing where I warned people from different market where we are changing mood, right? It's going to be chop, and it's going to be not as easy to trade, and market will not be as forgiving. That's why with the higher VIX, we traded volatility as well. We shorted VIX, we longed VIX, and that's why I suggested spreads on options if you don't want to just play naked options, because they're super expensive to buy with the higher VIX.
And,
so yeah,
and
so
what were you
we
seeing
changed.
Back in January that kind of prompted that? Was it a mix of
Well,
factors?
it was like that, the first presidency, so I kind of figured it won't be different than back then. So with the tariffs and all that happening, it's just a tweet news-based market, right? So it's really hard to trade technical analysis when you have news-based market, because you wake up in the morning, and the problem with swing trading, which is a beautiful thing in the regular market, that we had a trending market for 2 years, you set your stop loss. The issue in this market, you wake up and the stock is down 5% more than your stop loss, because we have just these violent moves, and it's amazing for day traders like Kenny. I totally am jealous that you love it, because I do it, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah. For sure.
As Michael said, I feel like it's December at this point, but I do it because look, I have two choices. I can just don't do anything and sit on my hands and wait for a trend, but I do believe this will remain for the next months and maybe even longer than that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we are in this channel between like 5,800 and 5,000 on SPX, and we can trade the channel really well.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want, as you said, like we went really long on April 7th because the conditions were extremely oversold.
Yep.
So you just go really heavy and you see all the indicators, and the probabilities are that we will go back up from that level. So you're up on certain stocks 50, 60, 70%. Just look at PLTR, look at Hood, and you can just hang out and then sell with certain profits and then wait again if you don't like to trade the chop. But for me, yesterday I went short on the SPX because we were getting to 55, 5600, which I saw on my scanners that this is most likely a place where we will retest a little bit. And in the moment the PCE was hotter, we basically retested. So I closed my options immediately this morning, but normally I would hold those for longer, but you just can't. You have to change your mindset, and that's the hardest part for traders, to be flexible.
Yeah.
Or again, recognize that this is the market that stresses me out. I do not feel comfortable to trade this, and I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
And people can't do it.
Yeah, people don't
It's
like
really
to.
hard.
People
Yeah.
don't like to sit on their hands or say, "Hey, I'm taking some day trades, but the longer term systems, they're not firing right now." And that's where I think Michael, with the multi-strategy, that's really all you can be, right? You can either be systematic with multi-strategy, or you can have your niche.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be both. It's hard to be for Kenny to then say, "Oh, I'm going to be this long-term position trader for a week, and then I'm going to go back to day trading for a week, and I'm going to be this long-term position trader for a week." But the internet lies, right? Everyone's making money all the time doing everything all at once. But I think that's a super fair point where, like, the authenticity of your process, you have to trust it versus, if you don't like day trading.
My only addition to day trading is selling puts. You know, I do believe that, you know, there are certain stocks that I want to own. So I have no problem going out 6 months, like for Palantir, exactly.
Yeah.
For
when
sure.
that went down to 68, I'm like, you want to sell me some Palantir for $50, and I could sell it 3 months out for $7. I'll take the $7. And if if I need to own that stock at $45, I'm in.
For
You
sure.
know, so there were ideas out there that were just too good to be true. And the volatility, you're getting a lot more on those options to sell them. You know, a lot of people want to buy this volatility. You usually, if you're wrong for a couple of days, you know, suddenly the volatility compresses, and next thing your stock could be up, and you're still losing money on the option. So I love selling puts. That was another one. Shout out to my father.
Do you do that, or do you have like a level on the VIX that you say, okay, now's the time to sell options, or are you just always doing it on stocks you like?
Just on stocks I like, yeah, and on the Qs too, because again, when you get that extreme volatility, people are like, they're buying these puts thinking that we're gonna go down another 50%. I'm like, you're gonna sell me a 285 on the put for 6 months out for $3? I'll take your $3. You know, and there was just that you won't see those extremes until the VIX starts to rip like it was. So you know, it's just a lot of opportunity out there if you know where to look. You know.
So what I'm hearing is it's important to keep your options open.
Ba-dum,
as a
bum.
trader. All right, we're gonna wrap up there, folks. Anyway,
I'll be here all week.
So I want to get into Leah touched on the news and kind of the news cycle driving a lot of the trading. As technicians, you know, you hear a lot of people say, ignore the noise, ignore the news. Seems like there's mostly noise nowadays. So from your perspective, how are you guys adapting to that? Are you suddenly subscribing to Truth Social Donald Trump tweets? Like, is that a new alert on your scanner? Like, how are you making sense of this environment just to protect yourself in the event of those big moves?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, right? Like if you're positional, right? You either zoom out or you don't touch stuff until it's clean. I think part of the reason people say it's a news-driven market, technicals might not work. I'm like, well, technicals are telling you it's a news-driven market, right? Our charts are telling us that, hey, it's messy. VIX being at 50, I don't know what news you need to watch to know that it's a news-driven market. It only gets that high when people are nervous about things that people in power are going to say. And so I think when you see that stuff, you either zoom out on your chart or you zoom really, really in on your chart. You don't try to hold stuff overnight. You don't try to be a week-to-week type of person. You either have to, another chart of SPY that looks great, talking about the VIX, is if you look at the S&P 500, the 200-week moving average, and look at that 480 prior cycle high, and then you overlay the VIX going above 50 and then breaking back below 30, you buy that every time, or you sell puts against the 200-week moving average every single time. But I think the charts tell you it's messy. I think you don't necessarily need the news to tell you that. I think the news will drive stocks individually, and you'll see big intraday moves. But just zoom out and understand when you have charts that look like this, and this is not a pretty strong uptrend. It's not a clear picture of what you should be doing. So I think you use the news to sell yourself a story that makes you feel good, more than you're trying to say technicals don't work. It's like, no, technicals are telling you it's messy. Look at new 3-month highs, look at new 1-month highs, look at new, 52-week highs. It's muted. So I don't really need it for what I do. I mean, obviously we keep up with it, right? And then you have to follow earnings to a degree, but you follow it via price. I don't follow it via, what did Scott Bessent say? I say, all right, what did price do when Scott Bessent said? It's kind of how I see it.
Right, that leads into what I was just about to talk about. As far as news used to be, we would clamor for the news. I'm so old, I don't know if briefing.com's around anymore, but I was there when the internet was born. So when we started trading, we were actually looking for the edge if we can get that news before somebody else got the news. And we were paying for services. But now, as far as the news is concerned, it's just the catalyst. So I love the news because I'm an earnings trader. So that's the news. But I don't look at what they said. It's like the earnings are out. Okay, this is how the stock's reacting. And that's all I need to know. I don't need to know what the analysts have to say. I just need to know when the analyst meeting's over. When you're done asking about the EBITDA, that's when I feel it's clear to get, start trading the stock, because I don't want there to be a tweet or a news event that's going to affect the chart, because it does. So once I know that conference call is over, the analysts are done, everybody's out there, now it's trading organically, that's my time to shine. So now I'm just trading the charts. So as far as news is concerned, it's just a catalyst. So when I say that, news is my lifeblood, It's just because that's the activity I'm looking for.
Yeah.
How about you, Michael? Do you have a back test for Trump tweets yet? How are you
Not yet.
programming?
But like what following up what Kenny was saying is, yeah, back in the day you could see the news and have time to react to it. But as someone who studies all the systematic stuff, you better believe as soon as a tweet's done, there's been a handful of AI machine learning things that have looked through it, said this is a bullish thing, that's a bearish thing, and they've traded within milliseconds of it coming out. So by the time you see the news and you react to it, it's just way too late. It's the move's already done and it's over. But to follow up on what he was saying as well is that you can then look at it and see the times that it doesn't make sense, and those are the news plays to trade. Like CEO gets indicted or something and the stock goes up. There's something crazy going on there when it comes to positioning. If there's really bad news and the stock goes up, or really horrible news and the stock goes down, that can be interesting opportunities. But yeah, for the rest of the time, you just kind of want to ignore it. You just want to continue to play your system regardless of what's going on in the market.
My favorite headline is when the CEO is like ousted and the stock like rockets.
Was it
And
Starbucks?
I feel bad for like 5 minutes, and then I'm like, actually, they're probably doing fine. It's fine.
Right. Well, to your point, also when bad news is responded to positively, that gives you a sentiment indicator right there.
Sure.
For
Yeah,
reaction
for
to the
sure.
news.
Just like Tesla, those were bad numbers. If this was 3 weeks ago and
Yeah.
Tesla said what they said, you probably wouldn't have had that wonderful reaction to the upside. It would have been a whole different thing. And that kind of lent you to the idea that, hey, we should be buying stocks right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about you, Leah?
Well, I have interesting relationship to news. So, of course, it's hard to trade them. As we said, with the algorithms, you're just not fast enough as a human. But I believe that market is a Ponzi scheme where there is always someone who knows something
Yes. Oh, yeah.
before. And a lot of the news are actually paid PR.
Yeah.
So there's always someone who knows. And we spent 1 year building a scanner that works incredibly, and we're using it a lot. So it basically shows us institutional flow and increased IV on calls or puts before any sort of event, or just randomly we get the notification. So a lot of times 3:45 p.m. I see millions and tens of millions of dollars going on a certain strike. Could be SPY or QQQ, or could be individual stock. And then we analyze it. So like, for example, next Friday we had massive inflow into ITA defense ETF, and then LMT. So we allocated money on Friday close into those, and Monday morning you wake up and the stock is up to 3%. LMT, of course, is less volatile. It's not going to move as crazy, but if it's a high beta stock, you wake up and you're up 5 to 7% on those. So someone always knows something. So I try to not focus on the news because I cannot be fast enough, but I look into unusual flow and institutional buying and the increased implied volatility on certain strikes, and then I allocate the funds before. And that same way we analyze earnings, and the probability rate is really high with this because someone always knows something.
Yeah, super interesting. Like, you can either read the tape and try to anticipate it, or just see the stock's reaction and then react to it then.
Yeah.
So, bunch of different approaches here to the
Sure.
news. Sorry. Larry,
No,
you
I
had
was just
something
going to
to add?
say, follow their feet, not their lips, right? And that's what the position is. That's what the sentiment is. It's what are they actually doing instead of what are they saying? Because, like you said, everyone wants smooth the picture out before they release bad news, or get it out in advance, right? So then the stock can fall, and then when they do report earnings, they can then rebound from it, and that be ground zero to then kind of smooth it over for the next quarter, right? So they have that quarterly run. And then, you have your maybe 2-3 weeks before sell-off and then quarterly run, and that's what you see. Something like Tesla does that over and over again. So,
Yep. All right, so we've talked process. I want to get into your top idea for whatever your time frame, that you guys want to pick. So top idea or theme. We'll start there, and then we'll go into a fun game that I've got set up after this. So, Larry, you want to start?
yeah, I still like Latin American countries. like Latin American countries and some of the ETFs there. Individual name, Mercado Libre looks good. Meli looks great. Continues to show relative strength. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico this year, so I love love Mexico, love the culture of LATAM countries in general. I think Meli against 2150 is the level. Had a failed breakout earlier this year and then kind of rebounded, so like cup and handle type. But if you look at the weekly chart, it's a beautiful base. And I think, right, even with the tariff news, it's shown a lot of relative strength, especially to other areas of the market. So I think there's some sensitivity there that they don't have, that other stocks within the United States have. And so you're seeing that relative strength and you're seeing that longer term. So it's mainly the United States, right, where there's the nuance. It's like the United States is messy, but there's trends elsewhere. And if your system's limited to the United States, you're probably struggling right now. But there's trends outside of the U.S. that look good. So I think some trends in Latin America look good. I think some of these Chinese names, they're building bases. They haven't really corrected as much as you would think based on what the market's doing. Yeah. I'm not buying into the European financial story as much. I think it's more of a low vol play than it is a European financials. I think they're utility companies, right? European banks have a lot of regulations, so they trade like utility companies. And utility companies are doing well right now. So I like the Latin American countries.
Shout out Deutsche Bank. Kenny, I know probably a difficult question for you to answer, but do you have a specific setup maybe that you rely on or that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I was gonna say tomorrow is my new best trade. So the setup that's been working, and we're building something right now it's kind of automating. It's called a faux show bro. It's a fake out, shake out, breakout. So, what I've learned is the market kind of is like a bucking bronco. When the stock wants to go up, it wants it off its back. So it's doing its best by breaking lows and then breaks another low, then comes back and then breaks VWAP. And that chart pattern just reemerges, and it's even more pronounced during earnings season because there's so much more activity. But if you want to, I'm going to be boring here. I think the Qs have put in that low. We broke down under that 420, which was the August, whatever that was, the yen carry catastrophe. When we broke under that, so the Qs have done a long-term pattern that's very similar to what I do on a daily basis. So when we broke under the 420, that was that capitulation back above 420, even back above 443, which is really significant. So I'm a seller of puts on the Qs, and just even more cliche, Tesla, Palantir, and that's basically my portfolio. And little shout out, if I could talk my book, SRAD. Anybody? Any SRAD fans here? Sports Radar. I'm trying to get my son a job at this place. So my son went through for sports marketing and data analysis. This is what this company does. So they just do data analytics for sports gambling websites, and I think that's going to be a great industry going forward. And this is a pretty damn good stock in the environment that we're in, that it just recently hit all-time highs. Yeah. So it's been bucking the trend. SRAD, if anybody's interested, buy all you can.
Yeah, this is definitely financial advice. Just ping Kenny on that one.
Because I'm all about fundamentals.
I mean, for the current environment, I couldn't think of a better stock because of the betification of everything between brokerages or sports betting or betting on elections or what the next tweet's going to be. But anyway, Michael, what are you seeing in the setups?
I'm very interested in crypto right now. It's finally, for the first time ever, that the annoying Bitcoin maxis have been yelling at us for diversifying against markets, diversifying against bear market. It's never done this in the past, right? It's never helped us in a bear market. It didn't help with inflation. It didn't help with any of these. But just over the last week or two, it's starting to not care about what the SPY's doing. The SPY's up and Bitcoin's up, or the SPY's down and Bitcoin's up. So that correlations, when they start to break like that, become very, very interesting. So I've been building a lot of crypto and testing a lot of crypto systems, and the market is so inefficient that really traditional technical analysis seems to work fantastic there, just because it's such a new and inefficient market. So it may finally have its time where we could see a Bitcoin new high before this market sorts itself out and gets anywhere near a new high. So I'm really interested in even like some of these meme coins and all of these different, everything but Ethereum seems to be doing great. Apologize to the Ethereum people, but I think that's a kind of a new frontier for trend following. It's a new frontier for systematic trading as well, if it's going to decouple, because before it didn't make sense to build crypto systems. If it's just going to move with the SPY, you might as well trade the SPY. It's more liquid. Yeah. So now that it's
I don't mean to
breaking,
interrupt, but don't you find Bitcoin was kind of like more like the QQQ on steroids
than
the SPY?
Yeah. This is the market in general. It traded like a big cap tech stock. You could take Tesla and you could line up the Q chart, and it's the same thing for the longest time. But again, if that breaks, and my whole kind of shtick is diversificating across a lot of systems, it now potentially is going to lead to a new frontier where you could trade stocks and you could trade crypto and then not have those things correlate together. And I think that'd be just a great place to spend some time and spend some focus for the next year or so.
So are you primarily looking at the coins themselves, or like equity proxies? I know strategy is a big kind of focus for people. Michael Saylor's got a lot of believers out there. You trading that specifically, or just the coins themselves?
The problem with it, and you can do it anyway. Like there's MicroStrategy, and then there's leverage MicroStrategy if you're really insane. All kinds of stuff you can do. But the only problem I have with that is you're trading a 24-hour market against a non-24-hour market. So it would be unfortunate if and it always seems to happen on like a Sunday night, you get a big rip or you get a big sell-off. So the only thing I'd say is if you're going to trade the stocks, you should have some money on an exchange somewhere to do some sort of hedging. You start to see Bitcoin fall apart on a Sunday night, it'd be nice to take a short so that when your MicroStrategy gaps down the next day, you can do something. But so for me, I'm looking at the coins because, again, there's so many out there that you can run systems on Boink and Farcoin now. So like, why not?
I mean, Farcoin has been the pure diversifier. It's since the lows, it's up like what 300%, something crazy.
I couldn't believe that was actually a real coin. I thought it was a joke.
It's 1.2 billion in market cap now. Like it's not. It's bigger
Insane.
than a lot of companies that are in like the IWM.
Yeah, if it maintains this, we should get it in the Russell 2000. That might help the performance of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Smoke.
Leah, I saw your eyes light up a bit when we mentioned the leveraged MicroStrategy ETF. So what are some of your top ideas, and is it crypto like Michael, or are you looking bigger picture like Larry?
I am in crypto pretty heavily, and I like the decoupling that's happening now. But I've been in crypto since 2016, and I love trading. I love trading MSTR. I own pretty much anything around crypto you can possibly imagine. But besides crypto, I really enjoy trading European defense, not the banks, but defense, and that is keeping me alive this year because early in January and February, I even did a lot of posts on that. I was allocating 40% of my long-term holdings into European defense. And this is not going to be for me a long-term holding. It's a trade, but it's a position trade. And I'm up on those like Rheinmetall. RNMBY is the American ticker. In Europe is different. And the Italian defense, LDO, is the Leonardo Spa, for example. So these are up immensely. And even today I looked and it's breaking out again the all-time high. So this is for me trade for past 2 months that makes me happy every day. So that's one thing. And as you said, also Argentina, it's pretty good. That was a huge trade for me last year. I was trading that. So I diversified a little bit outside of the US. But there is so much to trade. You can trade currencies nowadays. Good. Again, like you can sit on your hands and complain, or you can just sit on your hands and be happy, or you can learn something else. That the market is so beautiful and so flexible. There's so many things you can trade. So this is kind of my thing, what I did. And crypto, I hope we're going to have
Hopefully
a massive rally soon.
Well, now that we both said it, it's probably.
I mean, look,
my
crypto
Farcoin
started in the
process
crisis
right
in
now.
2009 when people lost their belief in institutions and in Wall Street and all of that. So I do think this is a similar situation now. People just don't trust the government.
Well, and
they're feeling very insecure right now. So
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of this started in 2009, and that's finally mature enough now for systems builders like me. Like people were asking even in 2015, 14, you should start testing it, but you only have a couple years of data. So now the whole class is existent enough that I can test systems over 5 years and incorporate 2020, which was a very rapid bear market, and then 2022, 2023, which was more prolonged. So you have enough data now. You can see what happens in bull markets, what happens in bear markets. So it's a really, and again, that combined with the inefficiency, I think makes a really interesting trading strategy market. You just have to be okay with the fact that none of those things make any sense. And it's the beauty of following price, because there is no intrinsic value to Boink. It's just, it is what it is. If it's going up, you buy it. If it's not going up, you don't buy it.
Intrinsic value with any of that. you know, any of those. That's what I bought them, because the names were cool. Because I'm a deadhead, so why wouldn't I buy Ripple? You know,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges fan. You know, Tron. If you're gonna have an electronic currency, Tron, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in 2017. You know, and I had to be dragged into it. You know, kicking and screaming. You know, a friend of mine who was in Bitcoin from $300.
Wow.
And this was when it was around 8,000. And he's like, listen, you really got to take this serious. And I was like, what do you know? He's like, I'll be at your office tomorrow. I'm like, he was in West Canada, I think Manitoba, Winnetoba. And this kid was at my office the next day. I'm like, Bitcoin, huh? I'm in. What are we buying? And you know, it's still with intrinsic value. It's just there is none, and it's hard to trust. You know, again, I'm very skeptical on companies that I could actually see and visit. This is just all bizarre to me. But you know what? If it works, and again, when you go right back down a price, it's working, and there are support levels and resistance, so it's working.
I love trading this BITX, BITX, for example. That's a really volatile one, as well as 2x.
Is that a
Bitcoin
leverage or
ETF.
is that a minor?
It's leverage.
Oh,
here.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
2x
I like
Bitcoin, right?
leverage.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we at 10x yet? Are there any 10x
I
products?
think
Because it's coming.
3x
Right?
I mean,
is the
I
max.
think you could get
Yeah.
there with options, you know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, if you do the leverage MicroStrategy
3x.
and options on that, I think,
Is
I think
that
you get
10x?
close to 10x.
What is it? MSTU, I think, right? That's the one, yeah.
Every tick, your
But
life's in
PLTR.
jeopardy or
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah.
So we've got defense stocks, crypto. I think we should all go out and buy some guns and bullets.
Yeah, no one,
The end of the world.
Gangsters.
no one mentioned gold, which as a position trader, I've been in since last March, and I just sometimes you just get in and shut up. And so I think everyone's talked about it, and I just got in and shut up. I have a trailing stop, but gold still looks great. And I think the
Yeah.
interesting thing about Bitcoin, not to be all philosophical, but it's not just a U.S. thing, right? And so when you see that international exposure increase, I think that's part of the decoupling is that there's people who have taken their money out of the U.S., which at this point we can see that, right?
yeah.
You see the relative strength everywhere else in the world.
Yep.
You see Bitcoin not breaking down, and it's not married to the U.S. So I think that's the piece that's decoupling, because we're seeing that decoupling at the same time. We're seeing international relative strength we've never seen, well, haven't seen, you know, and since Bitcoin's been around.
Yep.
So I think that's the interesting piece there. And this chart, if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin didn't have the tariff tantrum,
Right.
right? So maybe Bitcoin leads because it didn't have that tariff tantrum, whereas this market did. So it's, 95K is that level, right? Like the 95, 96 level, staying
Yeah.
above there is key for Bitcoin.
And once it breaks out, it's gonna
It's
go,
gonna go.
It's gonna go to $250,000. Yeah,
And
for sure.
It's like psychologically too, what I love about there not being intrinsic value is a lot of times you respect your stops more, right? Because you're not believing in a CEO, you're not believing in the next product, right? And I feel like that's one thing for people if they learn crypto. It's like, it's a scam. You actually manage your risk better than believing some guy on TV telling you it's going to have $1 trillion.
Yeah, fewer different distractions, but you don't have an earnings report coming
Yeah,
up. You don't
that's a
have a
great
CEO talking.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like
Just
influencers
supply
pumping it and
demand.
stuff, but you've got other things to deal with besides news.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, guys. So we've got like 20 minutes left. We're going to play a little game. I love doing mystery charts. I think we all have biases. As technicians, we like to think, you know, we don't have any biases, or, you know, we've overcome them to the point where we can, you know, trade the markets, you know, freely. But I've got a couple charts I want to go through, see if we can all get on the same page about if we're buying, selling, or doing nothing with this chart. And then we'll reveal what it is. And yeah, we'll see if your answer changes once you know what it is. So, like, let's start with this one. We can just go around, quickly say if you're going to buy, sell, or hold. Or just buy or sell. And there's no hold. You know, get out of here.
Okay, I'm a buyer.
Buyer.
Buyer, yes.
Yeah, if it breaks out above that level, nice uptrend.
All right.
Consolidation within an uptrend. Is this defense? Looks
No,
like
this
defense.
is Travelers Insurance. Shout out
Yeah.
insurance stocks.
No,
IAK
insurance
looks
is-
good, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so
that's one we could
We
go
started
on.
with an easy one. We're gonna get a little more complicated. All right, Keith, next chart. All right, this one. What are you thinking?
Same, breaks out, and it's uptrend recently. Nice cup and handle there. Yeah, I think you buy breakout.
Yeah, I'm torn. You know,
I'm torn too.
I'd have
A little,
to.
little more messy, right?
Yeah, I'd have to wait.
Lower low, lower
I'd give
high.
it 3 or 4. Well, again, depending on how many days we're looking at, you know, I'd give it a week just to see what's up. Because if it breaks down there, you got a pretty big fall. I'm
How about you?
neutral. Can I say neutral?
No.
If
cop
I had
outs.
to, if I had to, I'd be buying it.
Same. Yeah, you buy it, that prior cycle high there you see. You manage risk against that prior cycle high. You don't want to manage risk against that recent low, I don't think, because like you said, it's kind of in the middle.
All right, let's see what you guys are buying or holding.
Utilities.
Utilities.
Yeah.
All right, nice. We're all very
We're
boring
buying
here.
boring stuff.
Yeah,
Insurance
ne-
and utilities.
Relative,
Next up.
relative trend is up.
All right, this one, similar setup, but you know, maybe a deeper pullback. So what are you guys thinking here?
Would be a buyer. A nice support right there
Is this sense?
for reversal.
It's back to where it broke out a couple
Mhm.
times in the past. Looks like probably overextended, so mean reversion systems would like it, right? You slap an RSI or something on it if you're getting oversold. And then your beauty of trades like this is you have to look at this differently. Is that if you're buying it and it just rolls over and makes a new low there, you're right out. So your stop's really tight. But you know that was a big sell off, so something got broken there. So this isn't something I'm buying for a long time. This is the time frame thing that we talked about, that if you're doing mean reversion, if you're buying on dips, generally you're going to be a little bit quicker with it, as opposed to the other ones that we're looking for breakouts and longer term holds. So yeah, I'm a buyer, but I'm in and out probably pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a good poker hand, right? You draw that line against the prior high. You have what, 2-3% downside risk.
Yeah.
You have the chance to play the bounce. Probably rolls over when it gets closer to those highs and probably doesn't make a high. So yeah, I'm a buyer.
I'll be the bear here. I'll sell it. That looks like they got suckered in on those last couple of days, and things about to roll over.
There you go.
All right, let's see what Kenny's fading.
Merc.
All right, there we go. Yeah, nice run since. I mean, this is like a 25-year chart, but. All right, next one. Getting a little more complicated here. Similar setup.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the charts look like this in the market, right? Went through probably 1,000 charts. It's a lot of stuff is sitting above those prior cycle highs. So you're basically not short if it's above that prior cycle high. You get short if it breaks below that prior cycle high. This is why a lot of people think we might stay in this range and mean reversion's working, because mean reversion is telling you turn your buy system on, right? If we get below that level, you get out. But this is what a lot of charts look like.
Maybe you trade that range instead of worrying
Range
about
up.
the bigger,
Exactly. Yeah,
bigger
this
picture
is a
stuff.
range.
Simple flag.
This is a
Range up.
Yeah.
All right, so we
Buy.
can trade around this one. What does
No.
it change your perspective if you know that it is Chevron? Oil's
No.
getting killed a
hammered.
bit.
No,
you
because
know?
XLE looks just like this, right?
Yeah.
It's 95 is the level in XLE, and it's traded. It's been done that for this. Yeah, exactly. It's for 2 years. Energy's gone sideways.
Yeah.
So you just buy that lower range.
All right, I was interested to see if the perspective would change now that oil's breaking down. We're in the high 50s again.
Or this could be a good put.
Well, I was
sell
going to
thing,
say
but-
I wouldn't buy it. I'd be looking at it going to 120. Yeah, I'd be a seller.
All right.
we
Kenny,
go.
You
Kenny,
like
the
the bear
lone
stuff.
bears.
The perfect-
There we go.
Got to get you a bear suit for the next one. All right, this one's a little more messy. You know, we've got similar setup. What are you guys thinking here?
I sell this too. Yeah, I mean every time it tries to rally, it was a lower high, and then
Yeah.
you had that one sucker move, and this thing's about to roll over and die. Yeah, probably gonna go flirt with those that
The
big
low
candle
there.
down. Yeah.
All right, so we got
Yeah.
some sellers.
So yeah.
Yeah, I if I had to, I would sell. But this is the kind of chart I look at immediately and go, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not touching
No,
this.
I'm not
Yeah.
interested.
Yes.
You know.
All right, what do we got? We got the
That's
global
boring one.
wind energy.
Never even heard of that. Wow.
Fan.
I
Damn,
told you I was
whatever.
gonna stump
That
you with
is
some.
fun.
Wind energy. That's
Yeah.
Farcoin.
I know
Yeah, there
more
we
about
go.
wind energy
They
than
got to
anybody.
diversify into Farcoin, and I think this thing will finally get going. I'm actually I asked because this is the type of chart that I would take a shot on against that kind of prior support.
What against
I'm
13?
I'm like I'm a sucker for like betting on stuff that's been down, like the mean reversion stuff, especially if there's like a momentum divergence or bad sentiment or something.
Yeah.
I get sucked into these things all the time.
Well, and this stuff has really, like this and solar, are really bad sentiment. Solar
Yeah.
hasn't been able to rally for more than 2 days in like 4 years.
Yeah.
I think it's-
Seriously.
First
Oh,
one just
believe
got
me, I know.
smoked too, yeah.
I've gotten
we
a
had a
couple
good
of
rally on
those.
the FSLR,
You know, got hammered on earnings, didn't it?
but like a month ago there was a giant rally. It was
Yeah, there's a lot of
crazy.
volatility in
Because I
those
think
names.
that China solar panels were hit by this tariff, so the US one went up. But
Well,
that
and-
was 2 days, yeah.
First Solar's the only one that
Yeah.
like if you had to buy a solar stock, yeah, it's the only one that's
left,
holding
yeah.
up.
The
The
only
rest
one that
are-
has a semblance of an uptrend, quite frankly.
And it's
Yeah, it was
because it's
huge
larger
flow.
in those ETFs still, so it
Yeah.
still sees flows. Yeah.
All right, next, what do we got? All right, similar one. Maybe a bit more cleaner, longer
an
term
easy one.
base. What are you
Yeah.
guys thinking?
I'm buying this.
Everyone's buying this one.
Yeah.
What is that? The Andy Dufresne? Is that the?
All right,
Wait, I'm gonna get. We can guess what.
Oh
it is.
yeah, you want to guess what it is? That's a
Uh,
good twist.
one of the arcs.
No,
Oh,
any other
could
guesses?
be- no idea.
Well,
Peloton.
all I will say is use the last ETF as like a signal that I'm thinking outside the box a bit.
Weed.
No,
NOS.
No,
All right.
it's not at all time
that's-
lows.
nobody's
It
get-
can't be
nobody's
weed if it's
guessing
not at
this one.
all-time
All right,
lows.
Keith, reveal. It's the Spain
Oh.
ETF.
Oh.
So to your
Sure,
European defense and kind of European theme, definitely a lot of movement there. All right, what do we got next? All right, this one. This is a lot different than the others.
Yeah, no go.
Not touching it.
Yep. Going lower.
Going lower.
Hoarding it.
Selling it. So
Yeah, for
in
sure.
general, okay. What do we got here, Keith? 10-year yields. All right, so everyone's bearish on bonds. All right.
Bullish on bonds, right? Bearish on yields.
Oh,
that goes down,
sorry.
bonds go
I
up.
inverted this to
You
kind
inv-
of.
just
because-
a real. Yes, you did.
yeah, I
just
had
to
to
really mess
invert
with
it
us.
because
Yeah.
if it was the regular
So
one,
this
you
is
would have.
bonds.
Yeah, this is bonds essentially.
Gotcha.
So, all right, a little confusing there. Even I got tripped up. All right, next one. Oh man, we revealed it. But anyway, what are you thinking of this one?
Buy.
Crazy move
Buy.
and then consolidation.
Yeah.
Now that I know it's cheating, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm buying it at $19.50 because every time it dips under 20, there's buyers there.
All right, Keith.
There's a good. It's interesting. I know Kenny trades a lot of this, and it's great at
Love
it.
this.
There is the market's messy from bigger time frames, especially S&P 500. But when you look under the hood at like these Quantum, the Rocket Labs, the Palantirs, the
Yeah.
APP, these stocks are just consolidating sideways when the market's breaking down. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Right. So when they come back, yeah,
They're gonna
They're gonna
they're
go
gonna
crazy,
rip.
yeah.
Quantums are hanging in there. Your
They're gonna rip.
rigatonis, yeah, the QNTMs, yeah.
Yeah.
They are. I actually, this stock is actually hanging in there a lot
Really
better
good,
than the
yeah.
entire market.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It
Lot,
is.
Yeah.
lot of fans of these types of names on StockTwits, so I figured I'd throw them in.
a good
Keith,
one.
we got one more, couple more, I think. All right, this one's a little more messy, you know,
I'm in.
longer term uptrend.
I'm
kind
in.
of.
Buying it.
Long.
I'm buying it. Faux show bro right
You guys,
there.
you guys are buying this.
Yep. They're trying to shake
Double
people
Michael,
out.
I don't know. You don't seem
if I have
convinced.
to, right? It's one again. It's one of those short.
You'd avoid this one.
Yeah, because you're not easily getting back to that all-time high, right? And you're probably not going to break that kind of fake out low. So it's more of a trade, right? You can probably trade the range between that low and the high for a
Yeah.
while. And
Fibonacci's or
How about
something.
you, Leah? You buying this
I
one?
would buy, yeah,
a
for
trade?
a little quick run up to maybe middle of the
How about
range.
you, Larry?
I'll sell it against those other two peaks.
All right, so
We
we got
have
some
right
buyers
there.
and sellers. What do we got?
But I
this
think
one's
it's
Reddit.
probably going to
Reddit,
stay in a
nice.
range.
All right,
That's a
shout
good
out Wall
one.
Street Bets. We got some people shorting you. So, all right, we got a couple more. This one. What are we doing here? All right, this one's candles. You guys could probably recognize what it is. Yeah, what are you doing here?
I'm a buyer.
For sure.
that's Robin,
Fire.
right? Did I get it?
I'll never reveal.
I think it's
That's
Robinhood.
Keith's job. All right, Keith. Yeah, hit it with Robinhood.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
So I find this one
It's a
super
daily
interesting.
symbol
yeah.
right there. Look.
Yeah, I
love
find this
this
one super
one.
interesting because we've had that long base. We finally broke out. And now we're back at those like post IPO highs. So, little plug for StockTwits. We've got an exclusive post earnings interview on Friday with Vlad Tenev.
Oh,
So
nice.
make sure
Nice.
to check out that stream, Keith, if you want to go. We've got Katy Perry interviewing Vlad on Friday after the bell at 5:30. We've got earnings tonight, so make sure to tune into StockTwits for the live earnings call, chat about it, and kind of see what happens. So,
Nice.
any view on the earnings? You guys trading it or?
I own a bunch,
Me
just full
too.
disclosure, and it's for the crypto reason that we talked about. My theory is that if crypto is going to decouple and get more popular, they'll benefit.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't, they've got a solid business. Like when I do these streams, people ask me all the time about the crypto miners as a way to express that. Problem with that is you're buying an asset that's losing money and is a very hard business to run in order to get crypto exposure, where you could do a Robinhood or a Coinbase, and if you're right about crypto, you're gonna do okay. And even if not, the company still makes money, so it's not you're not buying a degrading asset hoping that Bitcoin. You're buying an appreciating asset and hoping that Bitcoin goes up. So.
Yeah.
And they're getting into sports gambling, right? Was that a
they-
rumor or is that really happening?
I don't know about sports, but they're definitely doing the betting contracts for all sorts of events. So
Yeah.
And did you see?
it's got to be coming.
You can get someone
that is-
deliver you cash now.
Oh,
on the
yeah.
thing. They'll actually
It's part of
drive
Robin
out.
Hood Gold, I think, right? You can
like,
get
wow.
cash delivered to your
Yeah,
house.
I want someone to deliver me $500. What could possibly go wrong with that? The guy just walking around with wads of cash.
I mean,
It's a
listen,
great
it's
idea.
vertically integrated, right? You get, you get your 0 DTE option play
Yeah.
or your parlay. You hit that big, and then you get the cash delivered straight to your house. I mean,
Right.
what more could you want?
And they come and get the cash straight at your house.
And then put
Yeah,
it, and then
they'll-
put
they'll
it
come
all
pick
into
it
the
up if you're
Pistons because the
wrong.
Knicks stink.
Anyway, we got one more. Speaking of crypto, I had to throw a coin in here. What are you guys doing?
No.
Ethereum. Is that Ethereum?
No,
Oh,
Ethereum.
I just thought it was Ethereum. 'cause
much
it looks
longer
like garbage.
downtrend in Ethereum.
No, I'm gonna short this one too.
I don't know.
Short?
Yeah, I wouldn't buy it, but I don't know what it is.
All right, we got some
It's going down
sellers.
there.
What are people selling here? We got
Dog.
Dogecoin.
Oh no.
All right,
Oh,
so-
good thing I sold at 40.
Sorry, Doge.
Well,
but,
it-
I sold at 43.
If Dogecoin can't get going with Elon basically in the White House, then when is it gonna?
It's never gonna
Yeah.
What's
Right.
it gonna
Well,
do?
the,
Right?
the hype
Wasted
when he was
money.
on SNL that
Yeah.
day when I thought it was gonna get to $1 that night, and when
sold
it
it
didn't,
all.
I sold it that night. I
That
sold
night
50% of what I
before,
had that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
better
sold
coins in the
Shiba.
sea, apparently.
There is.
Take this and overlay the
That's what it's
Farcoin. I know we
awful.
keep joking about it, but overlay even any of the like there's what Peanut the Squirrel and Pepe, and it's one of those. I think the more joke coins there is, the less this thing 'cause
Valuable this one is.
Because this one was the original kind of
Joke
meme
coin,
coin,
yeah.
and now that you can trade an infinite number that are like there's a new one every day.
Now, where are the jokes?
Yeah,
So,
it's like what? Who's buying the Doge when you can buy with the Shibu?
That's
Shiba
also
Inu,
dead
we got,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
Super
right,
fat. Got a lot of them.
Shiba
Anyway, I'm a
Inu.
sucker for those like that quick lower low and then a pop back up. So I would be a buyer and then hold it against that prior low and see if we can get some momentum going. I buy those setups all day. It's my one weakness. Anyway, I know we've got like 4 or 5 minutes left. Keith, do we have some time for questions, or should we just let these guys go with the final question? Yeah, let's pull up NVIDIA. Let's get some.
When did they report?
I think
Probably
They're
3
much
weeks.
later than
they're
anyone
the
else.
last,
Yeah,
they're the last of the
late, right?
Mohegans.
In
Yeah.
May
May.
sometime, yeah.
you could check
End
the
of May.
StockTwits earnings calendar for that.
There you go.
That date. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, like this is one of those. I look
It's
at that
also
chart and I'm
channel
like, no
down.
thanks.
Yeah,
All right, what are you guys' thoughts on
terrible.
NVIDIA or just semis in general?
They're cyclical and the cycle is not there right now, so I
Yeah.
won't touch it.
Well,
Personally. Or trade quick.
once again,
No.
my dad is starting to sell puts on this, so if
Yeah.
you're bullish, you should feel good about it because my dad never fails, baby.
Dad indicator.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
he's pretty damn good. And when he called me on this one yesterday, I'm like, really, Dad?
Sure, what's the ticker?
Yeah.
I
and
sell
'cause
puts all the time.
He's a big QQQ guy, but he's never gone specific with NVIDIA. But he's gonna wait, and he was looking at $75 puts going 6 months out. They were like $3 or $4. So if they hit 6 or 7, he's in.
Nice.
I saw the 90s a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Almost the premiums are. But usually I sell month out or 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think the StockTwits community is also on the bearish side for semis right now. A lot of again, they had 3 blowout earnings reports over the last 3 quarters, and the stock couldn't get going. So to your point, the reaction to the news is kind of the news, and right,
Right.
now we're not
But
seeing.
when this turns, this is going to be the hottest sector again, as it always
Yeah.
is.
Again, yeah.
Semis were the first stocks I started trading back in the 90s, and SOXL, sitting here at $10. You're able to sell some $3 puts on it for almost $1 going out just 6 months. It's another thing we're looking at. Yeah, so love SOXL. When this comes back,
nice,
it's going to be
nice
a monster.
3x
For
leverage
now, we
ETF for
do-
you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
For
yeah.
now we do the SOXS.
Just-
Anyway, yeah. All right,
really
guys. I
good.
think this has been great. I want to end with one final question. What is your top piece of advice for traders or investors? And then just tell people where to find you. I know a lot of you are on our different shows that we do in the mornings, afternoons, etc. But tell people where to find you and where they can get more info about everything you're working on. We'll start with you, Larry.
Yeah, my piece of advice would be, I think the cliches are cliches for a reason
Yes.
to some degree, right? But I would just say, take pride in your process that you know will eventually bring results, not just a single trade, right? Because I think if you have the right process in place and you know your edge, just continue to trade it, because we could be on a panel with a bunch of people and you can hear what Kenny's doing or you can hear what Michael's doing and you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna try that today. And then what happens is 5 years go by and you get very average at 30 different things. Just find what you like and get good at the basics with it, and tune out the noise that comes with that. And then hostile charts on StockTwits, hit me up.
Right on.
Awesome.
Kenny Glick again. So hitthebid.com is my website. Anytime you want to stop on by, just join us. I do a live session for basically, well, lately it's been 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We never stop. It's crazy. Piece of advice, again, the one I live by is it's okay to be wrong. Just don't stay wrong. Everyone's going to get these trades wrong, and the quicker you are to accept that loss, don't let your ego get in the way. And if you're saying to yourself, let's see what happens, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It always gets worse. All right? So if you say, let's see what happens to yourself, just hit the button instead and cut your losses off.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with all that, right? No one knows anything. We're all just making probabilistic bets. But a little bit more specific advice is lean into AI and lean into data, right? A lot of the stuff I'm doing with backtesting and systematic trading, I couldn't do a couple years ago because I don't know how to code. But now I can, go to an AI and say, listen, write me a backtest for when XYZ happens, because I heard about it on a YouTube video or a stream like this, and hey, I think that's a good idea if I buy the 200-week moving average or something. You can just go and test it. You don't need to believe any of this stuff anymore. So, if you're not playing with that, if you're not using this kind of big, massive acceleration into democratizing the ability to code things, I think you're missing out. So if I was kind of getting started right off the bat, I would buy a back tester. I would, learn the ins and out of it, get some good data, and just start testing. Because, when you find that edge, the whole psychology thing and the trading side of things gets way easier. There's so many people out there saying, oh, my psychology sucks, but meanwhile they don't have anything with any edge. So, right, of course it is. So, go grab any of the AIs can do it now, and just have them program in Pine if you're using TradingView or AmiBroker. They can all program in all these, and start building systems. Start having robots do the work for you. I'm telling you, it's way easier.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
So Michael Nauss, CMT on all socials, and statsedgetrading.com is the website.
And your address and social security number? No, I'm just kidding.
Come on up
Shoe
to Canada in the middle of the woods, and we'll have a
cute.
good time.
And how about you, Leah?
My advice is truly to understand your personality before you start trading, and knowing what you want from life, how much time you want to spend with trading, what's your goal, and understand your weaknesses and strengths, and then find the style of trading that works with you, and just focus on one thing first.
Yeah.
Master it. And when you have a system, have a risk management, understand that without having a plan, you should not take a trade. You need to know when to get in, when to get out, where is your stop loss. Without it, do not FOMO into trades. Once you manage to be successful with one strategy, you can start adding on later. Oh, we discussed so many things here. Don't confuse yourself to do everything at once, because you will just, as I said, be super confused. So be patient and learn from your mistakes. Really do. Like, analyze the whole weekend if you have to, and see what you did right, what you did wrong, and learn from that.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
Well, I'm Leah the Trader on all social media. Be careful, there are a million scams that are pretending to be me. So I usually have this check mark next to my name. And the company is trading months and data. And also on StockTwits, we are trading months and data. And we post 3-4 charts and trade ideas every single day.
Right.
So.
Awesome. And you can find everybody here on StockTwits as well. They're part of our daily lineup of shows. So appreciate everyone watching. One final plug for the StockTwits Cash Tag Awards presented by eToro. Today in New York City, 6 p.m., Union Square, the stand. If you're still around, I think we got a couple tickets left. So check out the site. Hit me up on StockTwits. Can maybe get you a comped one if you're nice about it. But excited to see everyone there and kind of celebrate social finance with all of you. So appreciate everyone, and we'll see you guys
Thanks for having
soon.
me.
Cheers.
Thanks.